Hi everybody, welcome. It's Juliet here. Happy Friday. So I am actually filming this ahead of time this week. I've been filming most of them ahead of time because I've had to go away for a week, and I'm teaching at a summer camp, an art camp, teaching children age 10 to 14 beading. So that's one of their sessions, and I'm doing a couple days a week of that, and I'm trying to get ready for the bead along as well, which is next week. So there is a lot happening here. So we're gonna have a little bit of an easier project this week. This will be using some supplies that came in our colorful Carnival box from Potomac Beads, but if you do not have the box, you probably have very similar supplies. You just really need some 6mm beads, and I'm using these absolutely gorgeous Czech coral shimmer beads that came in our box, and as soon as I saw them I was like, those are just gorgeous. And they kind of reminded me of like peaches or some kind of fruit, so I thought I would do a kind of fruit themed thing. And I'm using these little rondelles. This came on a big strand. I used some last week in our bracelet, and so this is all I have left. So I'm using some of the green ones as little kind of leaves, or I don't know what they are, but just it's it is what it is. And then from the month before, we got this Azuki collection. I'm using this metallic green, which is a really nice kind of metallic apple green. And I think it goes super well with the coral. So, and we're just gonna make this nice little simple earring. So when I first started beading, I kind of fell in love with diamonds, and actually my logo, if you look at it, has a diamond. It's kind of formed around a diamond because I fell in love with these beaded diamonds, and I used to do a lot of chains with those. Well, I still do. And then I kind of didn't use them so much because I was trying to work with other shapes, branch out, but I still kind of have an affinity to diamonds. So anyway, we're gonna make this cute little earring, and this is beginner friendly. This is quite a simple project. I'm trying to find my thread. I've put it somewhere. Oh, I ran out. That's what it was. I have a new spool. Okay. My old spool I finished. I'm using dragon thread size 6 today, and I'll put links for everything that you can get from Potomac. Like, you can get this if you want it. This little ear wire set also came in our box this month. We got a pair of silver and a pair of gold, so I'm using those, and they came with the wire guards and the little silicone stoppers as well, which is really helpful. And then, like I said, any kind of 11/0 seed bead, 6mm bead, and then a little 3x4 rondelle. If you don't have that, you could use just an 8/0 would work as well. Or if you have the type of rondelles, the crystal ones, you could even use that and use pearls and kind of make a more wedding themed earring if you wanted. That really, the possibilities are endless here, but I'm making a fruity themed one. All right, so you're gonna need about 2.5 feet, I would say, of thread. You don't need a ton. Okay, I'm gonna just move some of this stuff out of the way so that I have a little space here to bead in. Okay, and I'm using a size 10 beading needle today. You shouldn't need any smaller unless you're struggling to get through the wire guardians. If you are struggling to get through, you might want to have a size 11 on hand, or a size 12 needle on hand. With needles, the larger the number, the smaller the needle, meaning thinner. So they get thinner and thinner and thinner. But I use a size 10 most of the time because it has a little bit more sturdiness. It's less likely to bend or break. And I really only step down if I'm using 15-0 beads, which are smaller than these ones, or if it's something where I have to go through multiple passes, then I might also. Okay, so let's begin. So we're going to pick up spread these out, 4 of our seed beads, and you're going to push those all down, and you're going to leave a tail that is 2 times the length of your needle at least. It could be a little bit longer, but please don't do any shorter because you'll have trouble weaving in at the end if you do. You're going to pass through the first 2 beads of the 4 that you've picked up. So from the tail, okay, and it should form a loop like this, and then when you pull it, it's going to form a little shape like this. And now you can slide this up or down. If your tail is super duper long, you can slide it down. If you need a little bit more space on for a tail, you can slide it up your thread at this point. Okay, all right, now we're going to pick up 1 bead. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to sew straight into actually I'm going to flip this over so we can go in a more normal direction. You're going to go through the next bead. Okay, so wherever your thread's coming out, that's the direction you're going to be going in. You're going to go through the next bead with your 1 bead, and it's just going to sit and make a point. And you're going to do this 3 more times. So here's another point. So we're forming this bottom diamond on our earring right now. Okay, 1 more time, and 1 more. And you're going to go ahead and come out from, move forward so that you're coming out from the very next bead. Okay, so we're coming out at the bottom of our earring. You're going to pick up 1 of your 6mm beads, 1 of your rondelles or whatever you happen to be using, and then 1 seed bead for the bottom, which will be what allows us to turn around. We're going to skip that seed bead at the bottom, and we're going to sew back up through our rondelle and our 6mm. Okay, and when you pull that, that little seed bead will hold it on. If you have a gap like this and you're trying to squish it up, well, right now you can just pull, but if you can't, you can hold that and then pull, and it should tighten up. Okay, so you can see, if I can stop dropping my dropping my work. Okay, so you can see how I'm coming out on this side of the seed bead. So I need to even it out. So I'm going to sew in the other side. So the thread's already on this side. I'm going to sew into the other side of that bottom bead, and that will even out the thread. So we have 1 thread attached on each side. I'm just going to flip over this way. Okay. Now we're going to come up here and we're going to build this next diamond on the top. Okay, so just go ahead and pass through the next few beads. And when you're doing this, the one thing that you do need to be careful of is that your thread is not getting looped around. See, if I'd pulled that, it would have got looped around my little fringe here. Okay, so you have to make sure that your thread is not getting looped around any of your fringes. All right, so once you're coming out of the top, you're going to pick up 8 of your seed beads. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we've got 8 seed beads. Push those all down and sew into the top of the diamond that is already there. Okay, I'm going to just bring you in a little bit. I feel like you're very far away. Okay, and pull, and it's going to look like a loop at the moment. Okay, you're going to pass through the first 2 beads on the loop. I'm going to flip over so that I'm working in an easier direction for me, so that I like to work bead away from myself. So you can just flip over to whichever side is easier for you, okay? I'm going to go through the next 2 beads. I'm picking up 1 bead and I'm going to sew through the next 2 beads. And that will create a kind of a point. It doesn't look like a point at the moment, but it will become a point. We're going to pick up another one and we're going to sew through the next 2. Okay. And pick up 1 more and sew through the next 2. And you can sew into that bottom bead as well. Now, normally to form a diamond, we would want to skip that, but at the moment, I just want to strengthen this up a little bit. So, all right, so now we're going to sew around until we come out from this one coming downwards. So we have to go all the way around the diamond to get over there. And it doesn't matter, you can either go through the corner beads or you can skip the corner beads at this point, whichever is easier for you. It doesn't matter, but you want to then come out from a corner bead facing downwards with your thread going down towards the bottom, okay, like this. So I'm coming out at the bottom. I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, and then I'm going to pick up 1 of my 6 millimeters, 1 of my rondelles, and 1 more seed bead. I think these 2 are stuck together, yeah. With these Azuki seed beads, sometimes they do get stuck together, so I just put those off to the side. You don't need to use those. They are a lot cheaper than Miyuki, so you have to cull a little bit more than you would normally. Okay, so once you've got your beads on here, okay, you're going to skip that bottom bead and you're going to sew up through your rondelle and all the way up to the top of your diamond. And I'm just flipped over again. And see how my thread is not pulling all the way through here? That's what I'm talking about. You may need to hold that little tail, that little bottom one, and pull it in order to get it then to budge up together like this, okay? Now we have to go over to the other side and do the same thing on the other point. So go ahead and sew over so that you're coming out from the other point, okay? Pick up your seed bead, your 6 millimeter, your rondelle, and 1 more seed bead. And again, you're going to push it all down, skip that bottom bead, and go all the way back up to the top of the diamond. And just try and not get your tail caught. I had it caught in here. So your 2 things you're being careful of is, number 1, that you are not getting wrapped around any of your fringes, okay? I'm just going to call these fringes because that is basically what they are. And number 2 is just to make sure that your tail is not getting in the way, okay? All right, so on the top here of our earring, we have 1 more of these smaller diamonds. So to do that, we're going to pick up 4 of our seed beads. You're going to, whatever side you're coming out on, you're going to enter in the other side to form a little loop, okay? Go through that first bead, pick up 1 bead, and go through the next bead. So that is 1 corner on, pick up another seed bead, go through the next bead. That's 2 corners on, and then 1 more seed bead and go through the next bead and the bottom of that diamond. Okay. So now we have to do the same thing. We have to pass around till we're coming out on the bottom of this bead. So just go ahead and pass around the diamond. Again, it doesn't matter if you include or exclude the corners, whatever is easier for you to do to get over there. Okay, so now we're coming out the top. So here we added an extra bead, but here at the top we're not going to. We're just going to directly pick up our 6mm. We're going to pick up our rondelle and our seed bead. Push all of it down. Skip that bottom seed bead and go back up through the rondelle, the 6mm bead, and all the way up to the top, over to the other side. Okay. Okay. So I'm now coming out on the other side. I'm just going to flip over again. Just flip over whenever you need to make it easier for you. Pick up our last 6mm, our last rondelle, and 1 seed bead. Push it all down. And then you're going to go back up, skipping that seed bead, back up through your rondelle, your 6mm, and up until you come out from the top of your diamond here. All right, so it now should look like this. So we're now going to add on our wire guardian, and then we're going to go back and we're going to reinforce our diamonds. And I highly recommend that you do reinforce the diamond just to give it a little bit more sturdiness, so that it's a little less floppy. It just helps the integrity of the earring to go back through. Okay, so first we're going to attach on our wire guard. So you should be coming out from the top of your point, okay? You're going to pick up your wire guard and go up one of the sides. So on the wire guardian, there are 2 little holes at the bottom. It looks like a little horseshoe. See these 2 little holes right here? And then there is a hollow channel, which is where your thread goes into. So you're going to go through one of the holes and push your wire guardian down to where your thread is coming out. Then you're going to go down the second hole and through that top bead. And when you pull, you want the thread to sit inside the little channel here, and that just protects your thread. That's why they're called wire guards. They protect your thread from if you just had your earring with thread, the thread would rub, and then eventually it might break. So that's why we use these. It's to protect the thread, and also then it just doesn't look like it's got thread, it looks like it has a proper finish on it from the front. Okay, so so once you've gone through one time, you're going to go around your diamond again, and just your top diamond. So continue around your diamond. And what I would do at this point, because we have never skipped this bottom bead, is I would skip the bottom bead when you're going around your diamond. Which will help the diamond to tighten up. And remember to make sure that none of your thread is looping around those 6mm beads when you're pulling. Okay, make sure that it's all either on the front or the back of your work. Well, not the back. Make sure it's all on the front. Your thread should stay on the front. Okay, and then I'm going to go up through here. I'm making sure my thread is staying in front of all of my beads so that I know that it's going to go in the right place. Okay, so instead of going all the way up to the very top, we're just going to go one more bead and stop before we get to that top bead. Okay, so you want to be coming out from the second bead, and then we're going to go over the top through our wire guard again. I can usually only get through it twice, so I don't like to do any more than 2 passes. I might need to pull mine apart just a teensy bit. If yours is a little too tight to fit, you can just get some pliers and just kind of stretch it open a little bit, just so that it will sit down. I want it to sit down around that seed bead a little bit better. And it was getting stuck because that's quite a fat seed bead that I picked. Okay, and then so we're coming out from our wire guard. We're gonna go down on the other side. And just make sure that your thread does land in that channel that goes over the top. Okay, see the thread in there? All right, so now we're gonna reinforce, we're gonna come down, we're gonna reinforce this diamond, and then when you get here, we can actually meet up with our starting thread and just tie our working thread and our starting thread together, and then weave in the ends. And that's how we're going to tie it off. So continue around the diamond in the direction that you were working to get down to the second diamond. Okay. And if you need to just do one bead at a time, don't try and force your way through, because the angle of the beads is all slightly different. Where the joins of the diamonds are, they're going sideways, in some places it's diagonal, so just take your time. Don't try and like rush through anything. Okay, all right, so here we are. So I like to reinforce this middle diamond because it's a little bit bigger, so it can easily lose its shape if you're not careful. And what I'm going to do is skip that bottom bead, because remember, like we did up here, just to help it form more of a diamond shape. Okay, so I am going through the corner beads, but when I get to the bottom, I'm going to skip the bottom point. And that will help pull it. See how it pulled more into a diamond shape when I did that? And be careful that you're not going into these 2 extra seed beads on the end of that middle diamond, okay? And if you want, you can skip the top point as well, just to help that diamond even more. So that's what I'm going to do. So it's helping shape it a little bit better. All right, and then we're gonna go down through the two on the side here and through this middle bead at the top of our bottom diamond. And then if you flip over, you'll find that your thread is coming out with exactly the same spot. My thread is coming out from this bead, and my current thread's coming out of this bead, so we can tie these two ends together. So I'm just going to tie a square knot. So just put your needle over the short end and flick your needle under and pull. And then lay your needle over the short end again, flick it under and pull. So that is a square knot, okay? And now all we have to do is weave our two threads away from our knot. So this one that I have my needle on, I'm gonna go up, and then the other one, I'll thread the other end and I'll go down. And once you get away from the knot, you can just cut your thread off, and that will be your earring ready to put on the earring wire. Again, make sure you're not getting caught around any of the little fringes. You're almost at the last hurdle here. So just be extra careful about where your thread is going, okay? It's so frustrating when you get a thread looped around something, when you've spent so much time and effort trying to make something nice, okay? All right, so that's enough. You don't need to go through a ton. You just need to get away from the knot. And then you can just pull and cut that off. And then I'm gonna thread the other, my starting tail. So my knot is between these two beads right here. So I'm just going to come down a little ways, down, probably down to the bottom, and then cut it off. Actually, I'm just gonna stop there. That's fine. I'm 2 beads away from the knot, so it's good. All right. Okay, so now all that you have to do is hang your earring on the earring wire. And to do that, you should always twist with the jewelry. So if you're opening a jump ring or like earrings or something, don't pull it, don't just jerk it open, okay? You want to twist it open. So twist it to the side like this. Go ahead, put it on. And then you can twist it closed, and just make sure, if you're using the same kind of earring as me, that the ball is touching right there so that this won't fall out. It can't come out, okay? You don't want there to be a gap. You want it to be right up against the wire, okay? Then I can just put on my little stopper. And there we go. Some very quick, fruity, fun little earrings. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I know it's a little bit simpler, but like I said, I'm kind of short on time this week. Again, next week we will be having a bead along. Please feel free to join in if you want to learn more about that. There is a video on my channel, 3 videos down, I think, the introductory video. So you can go back and look at that. It's called the Regal Romance Bead Along, and this is what we will be beading in that bead along, okay? And if you are interested in subscribing to the treasure box, the Potomac Beads treasure box, every month you get different beads. So, and every month I make at least one project using beads from the box. So I'll put a link for that as well. Okay, so just check out below for all the information about everything. Okay, take care. I will see you next week. Bye for now.